What up, though? It's Monday, and it's your Uncle Snoop D-O-double G. I see a lot of you guys trying to look tough out there, just wearing T-shirts when the mercury's dropping. That don't make you tough. It makes you cold. So put a jacket on, fellas. You hear me?
Good call, Snoop. And tomorrow, only at Old Navy, all outerwear is 40 to 50% off, starting at just $20. Plus, everything else in the store is 40% off now till Wednesday.
Sounds like y'all better run the Old Navy, baby. You dig?
Excludes gift cards.
This is the Seahawks Show on the Happy Hour Network.
Touchdown, Seahawks!
Your hosts are Kevin Daggett.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
And Lee Vowell.
I mean, he gets hit in his knees and he's about to cry. He hit my leg.
This is the show by Seahawks fans for Seahawks fans.
And Kurtz makes the catch, spins out of one, spins out of two, 10, 5! Touchdown, Seahawks!
Seahawks, the best team in football.
Marshawn gets the receiver at 320, 10, 5! Are you kidding me? Touchdown, Seahawks!
And welcome to the Seahawks Show on the Happy Hour Network with Kevin Daggett and Lee Vowell, myself. Follow us on the Twitter at Seahawks Show. This week, our guest will be Keith Myers of 12th Man Rising. Keith was on before, and, when he was on before, he actually followed a win. And now this week he's following a win. So I think one of the questions we might ask him is, hey, Keith, could we have you on every week? The Seahawks will be 16-0, right? So I don't know if that's true or not. So how are you this evening, Kevin?
Doing pretty good, man. I guess they won't be 16-0 now, but they might win out.
Yeah, maybe we should start Keith early next year, and
That's
just
right.
have one. Also, I'm not really sure how well this show is going to go because I've got my caffeine-free Diet Mountain Dew here with me, and I spilt it like I'd been having several drinks, and so
that's not good.
And several drinks of caffeine-free Diet Mountain Dew, which does not sponsor this show, but it's probably got to be the most useless drink in the world, right? Caffeine-free Diet Mountain Dew.
Yeah, what's the point? Like decaf coffee?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of has taste. I don't know. I've only drank diet stuff for so long at this point. I don't even know what real stuff tastes like. So, anyway.
Non-alcoholic beer, that's another good one with no point.
I've never had that, so I don't know what that's. Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, getting back to Seahawks, and you can blame me for that one. Seahawks over the San Francisco 49ers yesterday, 29-13. There was a lot of good in the game, thankfully, and there was also some bad. We'll get to the bad aftermath, really, in a way, in just a second. But the good was Thomas Rawls, rookie running back out of Central Michigan, was huge, 255 total yards, 209 yards rushing, 1 rushing touchdown, and 1 receiving touchdown, 7 yards per carry. Actually, never has Marshawn Lynch run for more than 154 yards in a game. Rawls has now done it twice, and actually the last 2 times he started, he's done it. And he's the third back this season to rush for over 200 yards in a game. Adrian Peterson of the Vikings has done that, and strangely enough, Doug Martin, it's strange because he did it yesterday as well with 235 yards against Philadelphia. So we had 2 guys rush for over 200 yards yesterday. Your thoughts on Thomas Rawls, the Beast Mode Jr., the great Thomas Rawls Jr., Kevin?
Yeah, he's shown to be a pretty good running back. I mean, even when he didn't start, when he comes in, I don't know what his yards per carry are, but he does real well. And if you listen to that interview after the game yesterday, he says he does not like to go out of bounds. I mean, he wants contact with players, and I think Marshawn Lynch is the same way. But yeah, Rawls, he's I think it's a little too early to anoint him the next coming of Marshawn Lynch, but the other game that he ran for was 160-some yards. That was against Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's not a pushover team, either rushing or passing against them. I mean, if it was both times against the 49ers, I might say, well, but he's a good running back, and I think with Marshawn Lynch with his injury and whatnot, we might be seeing more Rawls and see what he can actually do. And it's kind of nice to have him backing up Lynch. He didn't come in and bam, he's the starting running back right off the bat. he gets to play behind Lynch for a few games and see what happens. But I don't think at this point I wouldn't say running back is a problem for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if Lynch is, and we'll get to that in just a bit, but even if Lynch is out for, we've seen the last of Marshawn Lynch really is in a Seahawks uniform anyway. Anyway, this is what Thomas Rawls' first touchdown sounded like yesterday with Steve Rabel making the call for Seahawks radio.
Here's Rawls in the offset eye. He's the tailback, and he's going to get it. Straight ahead. He powers through. He is in. Touchdown, Seahawks! The rookie Thomas Rawls. And another terrific drive. Second drive of the game for the Hawks. Second touchdown on the board.
And Blog Talk Radio brought you some static there, so I appreciate that. So, I mean, Thomas Rawls, excellent game. I mean, nobody, I don't think, it's funny. Let me ask you this. Obviously, I don't think he's that much of a different type running back than Marshawn Lynch. But the 49ers, they thought going into the game, hey, we're going to game plan for Marshawn Lynch. And Rawls may be better out of the backfield, maybe catching the ball. Do you think neither Thomas Rawls nor the San Francisco 49ers, knowing that he was going to be the starting running back until just a few hours before the game, made any difference in the amount of yards he was able to gain?
I don't know. I mean, if you're preparing for Marshawn Lynch, you're preparing for a pretty good running back. So, they were probably actually relieved when they heard Rawls was going to be playing. Did they maybe loosen up a little bit on that and not take him as seriously as they would Marshawn Lynch? Maybe. I don't know, but the 49ers they're not that good. Let's admit that. You 49er fans, if anybody's listening, I'm not going to apologize for that because it's true, but it's I don't know, it may have had a factor. I think Rawls got excited when he found out he was going to play, and he's the kind of guy, from what I've heard, he wants to take advantage of every opportunity, and he is completely grateful to be playing in the NFL at this level, and he's going to make the most of it. He's a dedicated, hard-working guy, so I think that's part of it, and he's going to give it 100% every play.
Yeah, it was before the game. Lynch, when it was decided he was not going to play, he went over to Rawls and said, "I'm handing the baton to you today." So hopefully Lynch will be back. I haven't heard the latest on his. Obviously they're worried that the Seahawks are that it'll be a sports hernia, and they'll have to have surgery on it, and obviously miss a lot of time. But as you said, Rawls, this isn't the first game he's done what he's done. I mean, he's been productive. Even a little bit he's been in the games. Even with Lynch playing and starting, Rawls came in. It's not like he gets 1 or 2 yards when he's the backup for that specific game. He still gains his yards. And against Cincinnati, as you pointed out, and then against San Francisco yesterday, San Francisco ranked 10th against the run. I don't know if that's because people want to throw on them so much. They're not really giving up too many yards running. But Cincinnati's a good team, and he's had 2 back-to-back productive starts, more than productive. I mean, extremely productive, with 164 yards, I believe it was, and 209 yards. So obviously we don't expect him to get 164 yards, I wouldn't think, every game, although that'd be nice. But he did catch a ball out of the backfield, and we'll get to Russell Wilson in 1 second, but hopefully I have the right sound here. This is what Thomas Rawls the call sounded like when he scored on the touchdown pass from Russell Wilson.
Wilson out of the shotgun with Rawls beside him and 3 receivers on the left side. Rawls straight ahead, across midfield. He's still on the move. He's dragging a defender inside the 35-yard line before Jimmy Ward makes the tackle. I'm telling you, Thomas Rawls, unbelievable, as he picks up 22 on that carry. 197 yards for Thomas Rawls on the game today.
Obviously, that was the pass that Russell Wilson put right into Thomas Rawls' stomach as he handed the ball off for a 22-yard gain. So obviously, we don't have the sound for the touchdown, but I apologize. Still an exciting call. And, again, Thomas Rawls, just a massive day. But also, who had a massive day, really? Russell Wilson. 24 of 29, 260 yards, and 3 touchdowns, which is awesome to see. Was only sacked twice. Of course, as you pointed out, San Francisco is not very good, so we'll have to see. But he did have a quarterback rating of 138.5. What did you think of Russell yesterday?
That is a massive day for Russell Wilson. Most quarterbacks, that's not, you get like a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady, that's not really a big day, but that's a big day for Russell Wilson. 3 TDs passes, a big QB rating, a QBR rating. And, he played well back there too, and I got to give some credit to the offensive line. I think the offensive line played pretty well too, but Russell was able to get out of some plays and find some open receivers, and I think the receivers got open. Doug Baldwin had another great game, and Curse, boy, he dropped a couple passes that should have been caught. But yeah, Russell Wilson had a good day yesterday. He did. He played real well.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned Curse because he hasn't really been dropping. He probably dropped more balls in the NFC Championship game last year than he has all season up till yesterday. But and one thing we don't have. Well, we'll talk about Doug Baldwin in just 1 second. Let's stay in the positive right now. You mentioned the offensive line. Not only with Wilson getting sacked only twice, but also being able to be productive behind that line. And Thomas Rawls, of course, chewing up well over 2,000 yards yesterday, it feels like. Offensive line, clearly, they played their best game yesterday, right?
I would have to agree with that, yes.
And then, of course, Tyler Lockett. Let me ask you, what's wrong with Tyler Lockett? He can't seem to return punts anymore. Should we cut him?
And he can't return punts. He's catching the ball, but he can't return punts, can't return kickoff. I will say this: he only fumbled that one early on, and he has not fumbled one since then. So, again, maybe he's turning into a Brian Walters. I don't know, but
wow, ooh,
he's taken some licks though, man. He has taken a couple shot that dude got him on that one yesterday, and you could probably tell some people wanted it to be a call, but it was a clean hit. But man, he's taken a few shots back there, but
yeah, he has. But he's been, obviously catching 2 touchdown passes yesterday. This is what the first one, I think, sounded like.
Russell out of the shotgun with 3 receivers near side. Here comes the blitz by the Niners. A throw downfield. Tyler Lockett makes the catch at the goal line. He is in. Touchdown, Seahawks! What a beautiful opening drive. A 24-yard strike over the shoulder to Tyler Lockett, and the Seahawks are on the board. The opening drive of the game, 6 plays, 3 passes, 3 runs. It couldn't be any more balanced than that.
Hey, I'm 2 for 3 so far. So just got an update that Jeremy Lane actually is going to be placed on the active roster this week. So Jeremy Lane actually will be back. Yeah, I think honestly with Lane, I think he was a huge difference, could have been the difference in the Super Bowl last year. Once he got out, once he was hurt, obviously broke every bone in his body on that interception, it seems like, and tore his MCL. He was the one guy who could cover the slot receivers. Once he went away, the Patriots just going slot receiver the rest of the game. There was really nobody. Burley didn't play very well. Losing Lane, I think, might have been the key to losing the Super Bowl. As maybe as silly as that sounds, the Patriots had their game plan, and he proved early on in that game that he could cover the slot receiver, and his injury made a huge difference. So what are your thoughts on Jeremy Lane returning to the Seahawks, making us now the number 1 team to beat in the NFL?
That's true with Jeremy Lane back. Now, I agree. If it wasn't the key factor, it was at least a factor in that game, because Simon, he looked a little lost back there after Lane got hurt. But Jeremy Lane he's a good player, and I think we'll see what kind of game shape he's in. But if he's ready to be on the active roster, they're going to put him in and play him. I think that's a good thing. Our secondary has had its poor performances over this year so far, and increasing, bringing back a veteran player who has been to a couple Super Bowls. I don't think it can be anything but positive.
Yeah, especially with Kerry Williams, right, being benched, a healthy bench for Shed yesterday. Kerry Williams has had some good games this season. It's not like he's been extremely awful. It's just, Jeremy Lane is just another key in that LOB. And I think having him back will make a huge difference. I was kind of hoping he'd be back before now. And, we don't want to harp on the Super Bowl too much, but you lost Averill fairly early on. You lost Lane early on, and you never had Richardson. And I know every team has their, every team has their injury issues, but losing those three guys, especially with Richardson and Lane, I thought they really came on at the end of last year. If those guys are playing in the game and Averill stays healthy, and it's not just Michael Bennett trying to chase Tom Brady at this point, and I don't want to harp on the Super Bowl for, we lost and I want to cry about it, but these guys are now starting to come back. And Richardson, obviously, I don't know how long he's out, but the one game he came back, the first play he had 40-yard reception. These guys coming back, maybe it's lost season at this point. We're 5-5, and there's 6 games to go, and we still have to catch the Falcons. Although the Falcons may not be the issue at this point because they're fading, and we'll get into their schedule in just a second because it's pretty rough. But, looking ahead to 2016, assuming everybody comes back, and we have no idea if that's going to happen, but if Lynch doesn't come back, we've got Rawls. And I'm not going to say he's lynched. We don't know that yet. But, at least we know that he can be productive in a pinch. And then if you've got a healthy Richardson, a healthy Lockett, hopefully, Lane coming back, 2016, again, we want to...
Yeah, I'd say so.
So actually, there is. Okay.
You there?
Go ahead.
Okay, you were kind of breaking up there. I was kind of hoping the same thing for this year, that we were going to have everybody back, and the injuries and things. So, I looking forward to 2016 is one thing. Fortunately, there were some games this weekend. Some people helped the Seahawks out. There's still a shot we can get into the playoffs, and with people getting healthy and coming back, and maybe things will change. Maybe things are looking up. Who knows? If that game on Sunday was a wake up call and said, "All right, we can play like this. We're the Seahawks. We can play, and let's just finish the season out and finish this thing off, get into the playoffs, and see what happens." But they got their core guys locked up for the next couple of years. It's just going to be filling in some pieces and seeing what else is needed. But yeah, I think 2016 is looking good too.
Well, let's take a listen to Tyler Lockett's second touchdown of yesterday's game.
A trip set to the near side with Jackson in the backfield. Russell takes the snap, looks inside, throws, ball's caught by Lockett, breaks one tackle. He's still moving. He's driving it. He's in. Touchdown, Seahawks! The rookie bullet out of Kansas State, Tyler Lockett, his second touchdown on the day, an 11-yard reception, and he had to fight through 2 defenders to get there.
And again, the offense had 508 total yards, excellent offensive performance, and we got to put a lot of that on the offensive line. Cliff Averill had 2 sacks. Now he and Michael Bennett each have 6.5 sacks in 2015. As these guys are coming back next year. I mean, he kind of talked off season about how unhappy he was, especially when Chancellor was having his holdout. Bennett seems like the kind of guy, unlike Cam, unfortunately at this point, it seems like maybe he's not happy with his contract. He's going to play. So again, Averill and Bennett losing one of those guys in the Super Bowl, it was a bad thing, but we don't want to go back there. I keep harping on it for some reason. It's in my mind, I guess. Unfortunately, so let's take a look at the bad. Marshawn Lynch might be out for the year with the hernia. Rawls, we're hoping, will be the consistent answer. Doug Baldwin, I think, Baldwin might be a big loss just because he doesn't drop the ball. He's a very good receiver in the slot or wherever he plays. He's going to have an MRI. What do you think of Baldwin's injury? Is it just how big of a loss is that?
That's going to be a huge loss. He's when Wilson gets in trouble, who does he go to most of the time? He goes to Baldwin, and Baldwin catches the ball. I don't know what his percentage is now, but he was very high percentage catching the ball. He catches the ball, and once he catches the ball, he is fast. And so if they lose Baldwin, that's going to be a huge deal if they don't have another receiver to place him. I mean, they got rid of Matthews, and Tyler Lockett started this game. Kearse has been, somewhat, inconsistent at times. Richardson's not back fully yet. So I think that's a big loss. I mean, Baldwin, I think he's proven that he's not the pedestrian receiver that someone labeled him a couple of years ago, but he's a big part of this offense. I don't know did you have the MRI today or?
No, I haven't heard. I thought he was supposed to have it at some point this week. I don't know if it was today. I know there was a chance. Maybe we know anything. It's his ankle, and he's had some other issues. Hopefully he says he's good to go, according to what he said. But, players say that all the time. We don't know the true case. Speaking of Chris Matthews, actually the Ravens signed him today, so he's now a Baltimore Raven.
Good, so we'll be playing him in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, well, without Joe Flacco. And we'll get to that in just a second. We're going to go at the top of the hour by Keith Myers of 12th and Rising, discuss yesterday's game and look to next week versus Pittsburgh. But, what happened with the extra points yesterday? It was like everything goes good, and then it's not team. One was a bad snap, right, and the other one got tipped. Is that an ongoing concern going forward, do you think?
I certainly hope not. Was it the snaps? I think they said it was the some bad snaps. I don't know what that's about, but I mean, Hauschka's he picked a good time to miss extra points because they really didn't matter in that game. We kind of knew they weren't going to matter, but we do not need Hauschka missing extra points and missing field goals. He is in my opinion, the MVP of the team this year. So we don't. He's too consistent to be missing that stuff.
Yeah, and I don't really know if the blame's on him. It's like the offensive line played extremely well, except for the extra points yesterday. So who knows what was going on with that? Late in the first half and into the second half, Blaine Gabbert, I can't even say his name. That's great. Blaine Gabbert actually had a lot of success throwing the ball. Is that still a concern with the LOB going forward, or is it just Gabbert got on a roll?
I think it's been a concern all year, to be honest with you, and I got a little concerned when they came out and I think Seahawks went 3 and out, and then the 49ers put together a nice drive. I'm like, oh, here we go. And that drive before the half, it's like, here we go again. But I think it is an ongoing concern. It's been a concern all year with those guys. Covering a tight end has been a concern. I don't know what the deal is there, but it's an ongoing concern.
And as far as Kerry Williams, again, we talked about it just a little bit, being replaced by Shed. Is that something that's going to be a good thing? I mean, like I said, I don't think Williams has had an awful season, but a healthy replacement, I don't know. And Shed, I don't know what that says. I don't know what that says about Kerry Williams' confidence at this point. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't. Kerry Williams he's had a couple bad, I don't know necessarily games, but the guy's getting picked on. I mean, you got Richard Sherman on the other side. They're going to go after the guy on the other side. And that's been going on for the past. This is the third year that's been going on. So you knew it was going to happen to Kerry Williams. Kerry Williams is going to get burned a couple times. I don't know that he was playing bad enough to get benched. I mean, it's not like Gabbert was just ripping that defense apart, but I agree. I don't know what it does for his confidence. And Shed's all right. Hopefully, Jeremy Lane coming back, that'll give him another option. But I think that defensive backfield, besides the 3 original LOB members, is pretty much by committee. And if somebody steps up and decides that they're the person for the job permanently, then then I'm sure they'll get it. But at this point, I think they just need to figure out who's going to be the guy that does that. But you know, I don't know that I'd really want to be that cornerback on the opposite side of Sherman. that's a tough. That's a tall order over there. You're going to get
even though Sherman, against the Cardinals did not have a good week, and that was on him instead of whoever was playing on the other side. So looking at the other teams that maybe the Seahawks play coming forward, Joe Flacco out for the year, tore his ACL. The Ravens are not a good team this year, but especially without Flacco, it's hard to imagine them doing too much. That's you hate for anybody to get injured, but that's a win for the Seahawks, right? That almost guarantees that they will win that game, which is on the road, I believe, unless I'm wrong. So and that's something they'll need going forward. They really got to win 6 of their last 7, starting with the game on Sunday, which they won. So 5 of their next 6. What do you think about Flacco being hurt?
That's a big loss for them. I mean, Flacco is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and he's the main guy there. I would hope that it's a win for the Seahawks. I was figuring it would be a win anyway, but now without Flacco, certainly that increases the chances of the Seahawks winning that game.
And that is a Sunday night game on the 13th, and that network has to be thinking, oh, now we have Baltimore without Flacco, and we have a 5-5 Seahawks team. I don't know. It's funny that they don't change those games late in the season. I want the Seahawks to be on TV, but for the network, you got to be thinking, not so sure. So the Falcons lost to the Colts. The Seahawks are 1 game back in the wild card race. This is who the Falcons play the rest of the way. They have Minnesota at home this week. So even though they play them at home, Minnesota's playing extremely well and the Falcons are not. So that's going to be a tough game for the Falcons. Then they're followed by Tampa Bay, Carolina, and Jacksonville, all on the road. Not that Jacksonville is the best team in the league, but they're pretty good at this point. I mean, playing better as the season's going on. And then they have Carolina and New Orleans. They finish with New Orleans at home, which is going to be a win. But, they could lose. Theoretically, they could lose almost every one of those games, except for maybe New Orleans.
They have to play Carolina twice?
Twice, yeah. At home, and then they play them away, and then they play them at home.
And Jameis Winston's been lighting it up lately. Dan Quinn's got his hands full there.
Yeah, I mean, we want Dan Quinn. I think we want Dan Quinn to do well, but at the same time, we kind of want the Falcons to, fail at this. We need them to fail at this point, and it's hard to imagine them. Yeah, it's hard to imagine them righting the ship enough to, if the Seahawks don't overtake them, somebody else will at this point, I think. And you mentioned Jameis Winston, 5 touchdown passes yesterday, QBR of 131.6. The Buccaneers playing a little bit better every week. So definitely no gimmies at this point. And Green Bay defeated Minnesota, which means they're tied. Then the Seahawks play the Vikings in 2 weeks in Minnesota. That's going to be a tough game for Seattle. I mean, that's one of those games, when I was looking at the schedule last week, I was thinking Minnesota's probably a loss. They need to win the rest of them. What do you think?
I agree. I had that as a loss too, and I just if Seattle can get it together, I mean anybody's beatable on any given day, and Bridgewater has not been the healthiest guy. He got cracked a couple times yesterday too, and went down and was slow to get up. So, we'll see. I do pick that as a loss though. For that Minnesota game was a loss.
Yeah. Looking at the wild card standings at this point, we have Minnesota in the lead, really at 7-3. And if the season were to end today, the Falcons would be in the playoffs at 6-4. But now Tampa Bay and Seattle are both 5-5. The good thing is we had 17 teams that were tied with 2 games back in the wild card last week when we were doing the show, and now it's just those 2 teams. And we have Washington. I'm glad I'm not a Washington fan, by the way, because they're Jekyll and Hyde. And then St. Louis, Philadelphia, New Orleans, Chicago are all a game back of Seattle and Tampa. So, game back. The wild card standings at this point definitely not too late. I mean, there's 6 games to play. The Seahawks could easily find themselves if they play like the Seahawks in the playoffs. So, it feels like a lost season to me. I don't know why, but I guess because I expected the Seahawks to be in a much better position than they are currently. So if you had to give it a 0 to 100, them making the playoffs as far as percentage, where would you put that?
Well, I could take the easy road and say 50-50, but I'm going to say there's about a 63.2% chance of them making the playoffs. But I don't know that they necessarily control their own destiny. I guess they do if they win out, but there's going to have to be some play by some other teams, either bad play or good play. I kind of wish we were in the AFC North right now, just because that division's so horrible.
Or the NFC East.
The AFC North, they may have somebody with a losing record or an 8-8 record get in and win that division.
I know when anybody brings up the fact that they might have a losing record, I almost feel a little guilty since the Seahawks were 7-9 and made the playoffs a few years ago. But it is what it is, and they won. They beat New Orleans in that game, so it was, it was. They at least proved that once they got there, they just didn't get blown out in the first game. And again, a game back at this point, 10 games in with 6 to play, and it's like that for everybody in the playoff hunt at this point. It's as bad as we think Detroit is or was, and they still are really. They won, a couple of weeks ago, but it was 3-7. They're 3 games out, and even San Francisco's 3 games out. I still think Dallas is going to make the playoffs just because that division is so lousy that it's just, I don't know. I feel like with Romo back, they'll actually win games. I feel like they probably would have beat Seattle if they'd had Romo.
That's a different team with Romo. I mean, I don't know if they play different. Tony Romo, he takes a lot of, people get down on him quite a bit, but I actually kind of like the guy. I mean, he's a hard-working, blue-collar kind of guy, and he makes some bad throws, but Peyton Manning makes a lot of bad throws too. But it's I don't know. Yeah, and Dallas is tough when you get in the playoffs too. Yeah,
it's and Denver won without Peyton, who played horribly, as we talked about last week. Played horribly last week, and Brock Osweiler didn't play fantastic, but he came in and he was 20 of 27, 250 yards, and they won the game. They didn't score a lot of points, but they won the game. That's really kind of all they need. They got back to the way Denver was winning those games early in the season, right?
Yeah, all you got to do is win. I mean, it doesn't matter how, just win. And I think Osweiler, listen to his comments. He said, I've been preparing for this moment for a long time. And these guys, when you get to that level, they're professionals. They're gonna give it their best shot, and they drafted him for a reason. And he was part of that 2012 draft, didn't he? What did he go in the second round?
I believe so. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
In front of our quarterback.
Well, yes, several people did, and wish they had probably had Russell Wilson at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell how good he's going to be because the fact of he has played behind Peyton, but hopefully, he keeps saying. I saw one report where Peyton Manning wasn't helping this guy, which is hard to believe because it's Peyton Manning, and it seems like he would help anybody. But as far as Brock mentioned, Brock Osweiler, not Brock Heward, mentioned, he has definitely tried to pick up every day he's gone in. He's tried to pick up something from Peyton Manning. So, hopefully it is any chance they beat the Patriots at Denver when they play.
Well, I'd like to see him beat the Patriots. And here's the thing about the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots are going to go undefeated. I just don't think that. And it's like when they were undefeated and they lost in the Super Bowl to the Giants. And a lot of these college basketball teams they're playing all year and they go undefeated. Going undefeated is such that the percentage of that happening to me just seems so small. So the Patriots are either going to lose now or they're going to lose in the playoffs. So they're going to lose a game. And if the Broncos beat them, great. I think they're capable because that Broncos defense is tough. They're they win games with the defense, and they've put a lot of money into it. But anybody, any given Sunday or Thursday or Monday, whatever it is, anybody can be beaten at this point.
Yeah, and the Patriots really should have lost to the Giants, and they've got a tough game tonight, even though it's in New England. I think they'll win because of that. But, and they beat the Bills in Buffalo earlier in the season when Buffalo kind of came in and was thinking, oh, you know what, we're going to definitely win this game, and they got blown away, and the same thing could happen tonight as well. So what do you think about Chip Kelly? We don't talk about the Eagles very much because they're not the Seahawks, but he made all those experiments early in the off season, then early this year, and has really seemed to have gotten rid of a lot of his quality players offensively, especially. Do you think is Chip Kelly the next coach of LSU possibly?
He might be. I tell you what. With Mark Sanchez as your quarterback, I don't have high hopes for your team if he's your quarterback. I'm not a big Mark Sanchez fan, but yeah, he may be the next coach of LSU. And speaking of that, I don't understand that talk about getting rid of Les Miles. I mean, golly, the guy's done nothing but win and turn that organization around after Nick Saban, and they're talking about getting rid of him. It's like, who are you going to get?
Yeah, I think
Jones.
I mean, it's kind of the same issue there, because I think a lot of people view Les Miles as a guy who ends up losing you a game every year that they should win for whatever reason. I mean, they made it to the championship game one year and they lost to a better Alabama team when they beat them earlier in the regular season. He has won a national championship at LSU. Obviously, he can recruit. I mean, you could say that, anybody who can recruit at all should be able to recruit at LSU, but, I mean, that's not always been the case. So I don't understand the Les Miles issue either, unless they just think he's kind of a weird guy and they're tired of him being around, because, you hit that 10-year mark almost anywhere at a coaching profession, and it's like, oh, we need a new coach. It's like, why? I mean, It used to be coaches stuck around for 30 years or so, so I have no idea what's going on with LSU at this point. But, I thought that today he was going to announce that he was stepping down, but he did not. Did not do that. In fact, he said, no, we're getting ready for next week. When everybody was, even ESPN covered his press conference, because I guess they thought the worst that he actually was going to, or the best, I guess, for some LSU fans. I have no idea that he was going to.
Yeah, they were hoping he was going to cut loose.
It's really a shame, because, as you mentioned, I mean, Butch Jones is, I don't know, have we sold him short too, though, at the University of Tennessee? Is it a matter of now their team's going to win, they should win 5 in a row to end the season, and maybe even the bowl game, which would be the 6th game in a row? Are we selling Butch Jones short too?
All his players are coming back next year, so that'll be interesting to see that. They've played pretty well this year.
Yeah, it's Kyler Kerbison will not be back. I mean, they have so few players that are actually not going to be back, who are seniors. Assuming Cam Sutton, and again, we're hopefully going to catch Keith Myers of 12th Man Rising in just a minute to talk a little bit of the San Francisco game. He looks like he might be having issues trying to connect with us, but hopefully we'll have him on in just a minute. But as far as Tennessee, going back to Tennessee, because we both live in Tennessee, we've probably got people who are fans of Tennessee. Cam Sutton could go pro. Kurt Magid was, could be a very good player, but he stayed hurt. Nobody else. Joshua Dobbs isn't going to go pro. Jalen Hurd is not going to go pro. Realistically, in your opinion, what do you think Tennessee's record should be next season?
I think I don't see them losing more than three or four games next year either. I mean, they got all these guys coming back. It's they're going to be that much bigger, that much faster. I don't know who they're recruiting. I don't follow Tennessee football that much, but I don't see them losing more than 3 or 4 games. I don't know what their schedule is, but just with the talent they have and what they've proven this year, I mean, the games that they lost, they were in most of those games. You know, they didn't lose by very much, and the heart of that team is, you know, they play for Butch Jones, and Joshua Dobbs is a great quarterback. You know, watching him, he is I don't want to say he's a Russell Wilson or Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, but he's a running quarterback, and I don't know if he's going to go pro or not, but if he goes pro, he is going to get beat up. But the way if he keeps running the way he does in the pros, I don't know that he would go pro anyway. I don't know that anybody would draft him, but you're not going to be able to run like that in the pros in the NFL.
Yeah, and I don't think his accuracy is is good enough to actually play pro football. I just don't think it's there. So if you were drafting, if you were Pete Carroll, John Schneider, and next draft, assuming all the players that we currently have, most of the key players, return, what kind of player? Obviously, they first round draft pick. Maybe they'll keep it this year. It should be a better pick, you would think, if the season continues to go the way it is. So they're going to choose the best player. But assuming it's not just the best player, not even a specific player, what position are you looking forward to draft first?
I'm looking for a big, fast offensive lineman. I mean, just something to get going on this. You know, maybe you can pick that up in free agency. I don't know, but that offensive line has in my opinion, has got to be the focus for the draft and the building of this team. It's just, you know, granted they had a good game the other day, and they've had a couple good showings, but Russell Wilson's been sacked 35 times, and because he's Russell Wilson, he has not been sacked probably another 10 or 15, just because he gets out of situations other guys can't. Now some of those sacks are on Wilson. Hasn't been real good at picking up the blitz, and he's not real good at getting rid of the ball quickly. But that offensive line has, in my opinion, has got to be the major focus.
Yeah, and you mentioned Russell Wilson being sacked so many times, but didn't it seem like 3 games into the season we were talking about him being sacked 31 times? That number is actually at least slowed down, and you know he got sacked twice, but didn't get sacked any the week before. I think it's 2 sacks in 2 weeks. I mean, they've definitely made, either the offensive line is making a more concerted effort in doing their job, or you know Tom Cable and Pete Carroll have worked with them so much every week that they are understanding what they're supposed to be doing better. And you know, we've got Pittsburgh Steelers coming in, and the Steelers are a team that have had a lot of injuries. They have a quarterback who's productive even when he seems to be injured, in Ben Roethlisberger. And actually, I believe we are now going to be joined by Keith Myers. We now welcome Keith Myers to the show. Keith is the managing editor at 12th Man Rising, which covers the Seahawks for the FanSided network. And Keith, thanks for being on with us again. How are you this evening?
I'm doing better now that I'm finally able to join you guys. Sorry I'm a little late.
That's okay. We appreciate you being on. So we'll get straight into the questions. You know, in yesterday's game, we may have seen who the key players are or will be offensively for the next few years. Both Tyler Lockett and Thomas Rawls had big games, and we're unsure about Lynch's injury and even if he'll be back next year. So as far as Rawls goes, he's obviously been productive this year, but do you see him as a player who can consistently produce as a featured back long term?
I actually do, and I didn't earlier, but I do now. And it's not just the one game that changed it for me. He does a lot of things really well. He's not truly great in one aspect the way Lynch is or other running backs, but he does so many different things above average. You put them all together, I think he can be productive. I think he's going to be a great back for the Seahawks moving forward.
Oh, and that's good to hear. But, you know, obviously he had big numbers yesterday. Last count, he had 3,000 yards rushing, it felt like. But, you know, how much is that a sign that obviously he is going to be much more productive than any undrafted rookie we would expect, unless you're, Arian Foster, for instance. But, how much is that a sign that the offensive line has improved, or are the 49ers just not very good?
Well, it's a sign of a lot of things. The 49ers really aren't good, and so, there's some of that. And one of the big differences between Rawls and Lynch is that Lynch is best between the tackles. You see the Seahawks run that inside zone play over and over again because it works. It really fits Lynch's talents. With Rawls, they open up the playbook a little bit more in the running game, and you see them do more zone stretch, more things that are outside the tackles. Well, that keeps the linebackers a little more honest, and it also takes advantage of Seattle's offensive line talent a little bit better. They've gone out and they've gotten all of these highly athletic offensive linemen with good movement skills, and then if you're asking them to play inside a box, in between the tackle runs, you kind of lose some of that talent that they've worked on acquiring. But when you can start getting them to move laterally and get outside and really open things up with that outside zone run, it just takes advantage of their talents better. So Rawls really just fits the offensive line talent that the Seahawks have better than Lynch does, and that's why you see him with some really gaudy numbers. I mean, almost 6 yards per carry, 209 yards total. Everything just really worked yesterday.
Hey, Keith, as far as Tyler Lockett goes, he had a pretty good game yesterday. Have you been surprised with his success at receiver this season, and how good do you think he can be in the future?
Well, I've been surprised. I knew he was going to have some success. I wasn't sure that he was going to be as good as he has been this quickly. I mean, that's really the thing, is most of the time you see receivers, they take a good year to adapt. I mean, not everyone is Odell Beckham, where they just jump in and contribute right away. I mean, Paul Richardson, it took him half a season before he really started getting used to the offense and getting to a point where he could contribute. So Lockett's the speed at which he's acclimated to the NFL is kind of surprising, but it shouldn't be surprising that he's been this good. He is so quick, and not just straight line speed. He changes direction so fast, which is, the ideal skill for a receiver, because he can just go out, turn on a dime, and really not slow down in and out of his break, and it just makes him really tough to cover. And then you've seen it in the last couple of games, just how easily he gets behind the defense with that speed. So I knew he was going to be productive. I just wasn't sure that he was going to be able to really grasp the offense and do everything the Seahawks needed this quickly.
Yeah. Hey, and Blaine Gabbert, he didn't play too bad against Seattle. He had some pretty good numbers against Seattle. And it looks like Kerry Williams was just benched for what seemed to be performance issues. With the Steelers coming in this week and Big Ben Roethlisberger at the helm, how concerned are you that the Steelers are just going to flat out outscore the Seahawks, and that's just going to be a Roethlisberger's just going to run the numbers up? Are you concerned about that at all?
Well, I am a little bit. Kerry Williams did get benched, and that needed to happen. A lot of fans don't realize this, but he started out really hot at the beginning of the year. After 3 games, opposing quarterbacks had only targeted his receiver 5 times total. That's how sticky he was in coverage. And then you just watch his level of play go down and down and down, and he was just awful yesterday. Just could not cover anyone. I mean, a 260-pound Lance McDonald was able to shake him fairly easily on the 49ers touchdown catch. I mean, that was bad. It'd be one thing if he got bodied out by the bigger guy, but he didn't. He just couldn't cover him. So it's good that Williams got benched. I'm not that concerned because I like Seattle's depth at corner. Marcus Burley is still fighting with that thumb injury, but he can cover. He can play. And we know that Deshaun Shed's played really well this year when he's been on the field. So I like that. I like the depth, and then of course you got Jeremy Lane coming back. And I'm not sure you want to count on him to start and play big minutes in his first game back. But if you need him in a dime set type of thing, or maybe some nickel late in the game if somebody gets hurt, I think you can count on them. I think that's going to actually be an improvement over what Seattle's had because Williams just has not played well. The one concern with the Steelers is I'm not sure there's anybody who can cover Antonio Brown. He is he might be the best receiver. I know that there's taller guys, and so therefore they're more explosive in terms of that. But as far as just pure receiving skills, Antonio Brown's just great. The Seahawks they have to do something to figure out how to stop him. But outside of Antonio Brown, I think the Seahawks can slow down that offense and keep them in check, especially since Le'Veon Bell is hurt. And so there's not going to be that big threat of the running game. They'll be able to keep their pass rushers in there. And I think the Seahawks can put up some resistance against that Steeler offense.
I hope they can cover a tight end for once. That would be really nice to see. The Seahawks cover a tight end. And the Falcons started off pretty good this year, but they seem to be fading. And with the Vikings lost to the Packers yesterday, obviously, this game against the Seahawks and the Vikings coming up in a few weeks could be a pretty big game. What are the chances right now do you see the Seahawks making the playoffs?
I think they're pretty good. There's two games coming up that are really important. There's this one against the Steelers and then the one against the Vikings. If the Seahawks win those two, I think they make the playoffs. Obviously, that is not enough wins. They need some other ones, but I think they'll get them. But currently the Seahawks are the 8th seed, where the top 6 make it. But I see the Falcons. The Falcons are just fading. They've lost 4 of 5. They don't look like a good team right now, and I don't see them sticking with it. The Falcons also play 2 games against Carolina and 1 against Tampa. Tampa's the other team that Seattle has to pass in order to get in, and so I could, I don't see them staying in this. They're playing okay, but they're not a great team by any means, so I don't see them staying in the race. But I think the Falcons might be one of those teams where if they get to 8-8 or maybe 9-7, that's probably their ceiling, and I don't think that's obviously not going to be enough to get in. So that puts Seattle in a good position. What they want, first of all, is to get in. I think they can do that. But since you guys have to go on the road, you're much better off getting in as the 5 seed because then you get to play the Giants or whoever comes out of the NFC East, which is that whole division's bad. And that's the team that you want to go play, you don't want to go play the Packers if you can avoid it in Lambeau in that first round. So getting that 5 seed would be even more important for Seattle. And to do that, you've got to catch Minnesota. I think the Seahawks are 2 games back. They can get 1 and the tiebreaker by playing, by beating Minnesota later in the season. They just need help in one other game, and they can catch them. So that's, to me right now, if I'm looking forward, that's the goal. That's what I'm focused on, is trying to get that 5 seed away from the Vikings.
Yeah, and one other game that sounds silly, but the Falcons have to go on the road against Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's not playing that badly, really, especially with quarterback play. They could beat, on any given Sunday, they could beat most teams. So, and as far as either good or bad, what are the 2 or 3 of the biggest surprises of the Seahawks 2015 season so far to you?
Well, I think the bad has been that Russell Wilson just hasn't been that proficient. And I know a lot of it has to do with the offensive line, but he's also just overthrown some balls and just missed some people, made some bad decisions, and just hasn't been the same kind of guy we've been used to seeing. I mean, he still is a dynamic guy with his feet, still make just tremendous, 55-yard throws where the ball's in the air the whole way and then have it land on a dime. But he just hasn't done those kind of things as consistently. And I think that's been kind of the biggest surprise and disappointment. I was really expecting him to kind of take a step forward this season, and he's taken a bit of a step back. Thomas Rawls has been a huge surprise. I saw him in training camp, and I was like, wow, why is this guy even on the roster? He was, just camp fodder at best. Pretty much every run was a negative, for negative yardage, and he just looked lost and no idea. And then you watch him yesterday, it's like a different guy. He just looks amazing out there. So that's obviously been a big surprise. And I think just the lack of focus by Seattle's defense. There's been too many plays where you see Richard Sherman leave his guy to go to or somebody else's zone because he thinks that's where the ball's going, and then the ball goes over his head to the guy that Sherman was supposed to be covering. Or, the same kind of thing from Cam Chancellor. Cam's been one of those guys that's been just making some really weird decisions this year that are uncharacteristic, and they're not the type of thing we've been seeing the last couple of years. And those are the types of things that have led to those point totals that the Seahawks have given up, because they're just giving up big plays when guys aren't doing their jobs. They're trying to do someone else's job. So it's just the lack of discipline by the defense.
Yeah, excellent points, all three. So, Keith, we really appreciate you being on the show. We talked a little bit before you came on that we've had you on twice, and each time has followed a victory. So we think if we had you on every week, the Seahawks would probably go 16-0. But will you let people know where you can be found and be read?
Oh, yeah. So all my writing right now you can find at 12thmanrising.com. It's the Seahawks affiliate for the FanSided network. And if you want to talk to me, the best place to do that is on Twitter. You can find me at Myers, MYERS, NFL. And that's about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being on again. You're a great guest, as always. And, hopefully the Seahawks will continue winning. And, enjoy watching them on Sunday and hopefully watching them win.
Yep. Have a happy Thanksgiving, guys.
You too. Thank you.
You too, Keith. Thanks.
So, we've got just about a minute left in the show. And, again, we want to thank Keith Myers for being on. Keith has been on twice and been great. So, what are you doing for Thanksgiving, Kevin?
Well, we're having the whole family over to our place. So it's going to be a house full over up here in the mountains on on Thursday. Thursday, I guess, late morning, afternoon. So how about yourself?
Yeah, the same. My wife is in a play at the Oak Ridge Playhouse, and they actually have a show on Thanksgiving evening, so we're going to have everybody over here. So she'll probably go off to the play, and I'll be cleaning, but that's fine. That's totally fine. So, but it's always nice to have family over. So hopefully, I guess we should end the show by saying we hope everybody has a very good Thanksgiving and enjoys watching football or whatever they do on Thanksgiving, watching the Macy's Day Parade or whatever. So thanks for listening again. Thanks to Keith Myers for being on. Fabulous guest. We will be right back here at 7 p.m. Monday next week talking to the fabulous Dana O'Gorman, who's been on a few times with us and is always great. So thanks very much, everyone. Have a great night.
Go Hawks.
What's better than all pumpkin everything? Everything you need on GoPhone from AT&T. It gives you unlimited talk, text, and data usage with the first 1.5 gigabytes at high speed. Plus, it's only $40 a month after a $5 auto refill discount. AT&T, mobilizing your world.
First payment is $45. $5 discount applied to monthly rate plan charge upon enrollment in auto refill. After first 1.5 gigabytes, get data speeds up to 128 kilobytes per second. Additional charges and restrictions apply. See store for details.